At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Hour number 3 of the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. I'm your host, Tim Murray, live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. The Elite Eight today, about 2 hours from now. You don't have to wait all that long before hoops on your television screens. First up, it'll be Tennessee-Houston, and then the finale of the Elite Eight will be Auburn and Michigan State, who will be cutting down the nets. I was actually in attendance at the last time Michigan State went to the Final Four. They beat Duke, that Zion Williamson Duke team, in 2019 in Washington, D.C. A pretty stunning result to some as Michigan State got the victory. Not the case last night against that Duke team as Duke steamrolled Alabama 85-65. Duke now the odds-on favorite here at Circa to win the national championship at -105. I'll be honest, Duke was my selection when you filled out your brackets, vsin.com, etc., to win the national championship. One of the few things I've got going for me in that bracket. I also had Texas Tech to win the West. That did not, unfortunately, end up all that well there in the final 3 minutes of that contest. But guess what I don't have? Any exposure to Duke in the futures market. And now they're an odds-on favorite. But what I will say, and we'll talk more about this, I'll be in tomorrow night on VSiN Primetime. Fascinated to see whoever emerges out of the Midwest region today, whether it be Houston or Tennessee, what that number will be. Because understandably so, the discussion will be come tomorrow, especially if it's an ugly rock fight today. Let's say it's, 59-57 between Tennessee and Houston. The mindset's going to be there's too much firepower from this Duke team, and you might be right, but I'm very curious to see what that number is. Now, I was on Duke last night, and many of us were in the Circa College Hoops contest because I thought regression was coming. And from a betting standpoint, you had Duke coming off of a really impressive win, didn't cover, though, against Arizona, and we saw Alabama drop 113 points against BYU, a red-hot BYU team. Per Bart Torvik, since the middle of February, the top 3 teams in the country were Duke, Houston, and Florida, and then BYU. And Alabama went out there and dropped 25 threes on their head. You had a feeling regression was coming. The great defense was out there. But I'm probably, and we'll see what happens, but I'm probably, especially if it's Houston, going to be maybe looking at the dog there in Houston in the Final Four. But we got games to play here today, of course, and one of them is Tennessee and Houston. Many people, when they filled out their brackets, as chalky as it may have been, I would say most people, if you picked a 1 seed to falter, it was going to be Houston at some point. Whether it be the upset in the second round of Gonzaga, which almost got there, Khalif Battle had a 3 late in that one as Gonzaga made the charge back, or it was this spot here against Tennessee. Most people assumed the West would be taken by Florida. Ultimately, they were right. A little sweaty, but they got there. The East was Duke all the way through. They easily conquered the East. The Midwest, or the South region, I think there was some curiosity there with Auburn, but I felt like once you got them out of that potential tricky spot in the second round, to me, I didn't see where they would trip up. Maybe it's today against Michigan State. But my point being, this was the spot I think a lot of people anticipated a potential trip up for a 1 seed. And I don't know if there's a ton of buy-in on this Houston team. We talked to Chris Felica earlier in the show. He and I were in lockstep with this Houston squad. I bet them to win this region at plus 125. To be honest, probably should have done the old rollover because now you're looking at a minus 155 price, and we could have been banking it all the way here. But ultimately, if ifs and nuts were candy and butts, the world would be a better place. So I am in on Houston. I am not betting it from a side standpoint, but A lot of backing here for Tennessee in this particular spot, and that's why we've seen the market move from 4.5 down to 3, even a 2.5 out there at DraftKings. A unique wrinkle for this game is the familiarity these two coaching OGs have in Rick Barnes at 70 years old and Kelvin Sampson in his 60s, and their relationship. So let's hear first from Rick Barnes on his relationship with Kelvin Sampson.
From a personal standpoint, when you've grown up with a guy like Kelvin and, Tom's won it, and, we'd love to win it, but I would love to see Kelvin Sampson win a national championship. Not this year, but I love the guy because, again, I just think about the first time I went out there, I think they put me on a futon in their house, and from that time, Karen has got a beautiful wife, and watching, Kelvin, their kids. I've watched their kids grow, and it's just it's tough, but I'm a huge Kelvin Sampson fan.
Kelvin Sampson, 69 years old. Rick Barnes, 70. Both have over 600-plus wins. Rick Barnes at 838. Kelvin Sampson in the upper 600s. Elite programs, both very stylistically similar. But it is worth noting, when you look at these two teams, yes, you've got Houston, number 1 defense in the country per Ken Palm's adjusted defensive efficiency. Tennessee, number 3. The only team in between is St. John's, who spent a good chunk of the season sitting there at number 1. But let's also look at the fact that Tennessee is a pretty good offense, 17th per Ken Palm's adjusted offensive efficiency. And Houston is a team sitting there in the top 15 as well. Number 12, can shoot the ball well, did not shoot the ball exceptionally well, obviously, in the Sweet 16. L.J. Cryer was phenomenal against Gonzaga. Then he struggled in the Sweet 16. I anticipate a better performance from L.J. Cryer today for Houston. I do like Houston. As I mentioned, I'm in on them from a future standpoint, not racing to lay anything here in a game, and I totally understand why the market moved this way. When you've got a total like it is, and you've got a point spread of 4.5 at open, you're going to see that resistance point here, and especially the way that Tennessee has been playing. But we heard from Rick Barnes. Let's hear from Kelvin Sampson as well on that special relationship these two head coaches have as they go head-to-head today in Indianapolis.
Well, Rick and I coached against each other in the Big 12 when I was at Oklahoma and he was at Texas. We've been good friends for 40-some years. His style was solid. There's not one aspect of the game that Rick's team's not always prepared for. He's one of the best coaches I think there's ever been.
By the way, shouts to C-Rad on social media here, as it looks like, I believe it's FanDuel, has hypothetical Final Four lines up, and they have Houston catching 5.5, Tennessee catching 7.5. Let's get like a 54-52 game. Let's get Houston into the Final Four. Can we get like a 6.5, maybe? Come on. Just between you and me, odds makers. Come on. No one's going to want to bet Houston. But that is going to be a very fun discussion, who emerges out of this one. But I think Houston takes care of business today, but certainly I recognize and understand why you'd look to take the points in this spot. And this does not fit the favorite chalky theme of the NCAA tournament. You got to be a favorite of 6 or more in order to fit that characteristic. 32-2 straight up are favorites of 6 or more points. Favorites of 6 or more points, as Evan Abrams pointed out, in the Power 5 conference tournaments, ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big 10, Big East, 30-1 straight up. So interested to note that the total continues to rise here on this particular spot. All right, we also have Auburn and Michigan State. We're going to get more into this one with Matt Youmans coming up on the other side. But let's jump into Best Bets, brought to you by our friends over at G-Bank. As always, G-Bank, as you know, G-Bank is the official bank of VSiN. So from where we stand right now, the total has continued to come down. I put in a play on Michigan State Auburn in the Circa College Hoops Challenge under 149.5. At 147.5, I still would lean under here, so I do like the under. And then the more and more I think about it, and I know Matt's going to be on Michigan State, I just think this Auburn team, from an athletic standpoint, from a size standpoint, is really a tough matchup for the Spartans. But do I want to lay 5 with Auburn here against Michigan State, a team that is not going to quit, a team that Izzo has continued to talk about how much he loves this team? Look, moneyline parlays, let's be honest, that's been the way to go this NCAA tournament. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do, ladies and gentlemen, from a moneyline parlay standpoint? Who can I match him up with? Well, my guy Tyler Shoemaker was on the show earlier today, and he said South Carolina, coming off of a bit of a sleepy performance against Maryland, you're probably not going to get that again. Let's do it. Auburn to South Carolina women. Moneyline parlay, I think in that minus 140 range. I laid, I think, a minus 141. So that'll be our play here, because I do like Auburn to win this game. I don't want to lay the 5 or 4.5. So we'll do a moneyline parlay, which, once again, what can go wrong with favorite moneyline parlays here? So I will, once again, if this comes home, all credit to me. If it doesn't come home, we blame Tyler Shoemaker. Fair? All right? We understand that. There you go. G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. Once again, they're up in the ante, folks, with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First, new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from account opening receive a $250 bonus. In addition, if you spend $50,000 on gaming and sports app loads within the 30 days of account opening, you'll receive another $500 bonus. That's potentially a $750 bonus. Apply now. VSiN.com/GBank, VSIN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions do apply. Michigan State, Auburn, 5:05 Eastern in Atlanta. Tennessee, Houston, 2:20 Eastern in Indianapolis. We're seeing more over money hit the market, up to 126. Matt Youmans will help us break down the Elite Eight next, right here on the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
We keep it rolling here on a Sunday morning. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. Just 6 teams left. Wasn't that long ago, right behind me, it was gorgeous. 68 teams, and now we're down to 6. But I'm excited for the games today. First up, we've got Tennessee taking on Houston, as the total has gone from 121.5 out to 126. So over money coming in on Tennessee and Houston. And then the evening affair, a little after 5 o'clock in the East in Atlanta, Auburn, a 5-point favorite at most shops. You can get a 4.5 if you do like the favorite against Michigan State. The creator of the Circa College Hoops contest is Matt Youmans, and also my co-host of VSiN Primetime, and he joins us right now on our progressive guest line. Right now, the standings sit as Paul Stone still in first with 31.5 points, JVT with 28 points. I'm sitting there with 27, and Youmans not too far behind at 26.5 points. Youmans does have 2 plays today in the Circa College Hoops Challenge. So Youmans right now just behind me and JVT, but I only have 1 play today. 4-2-1 is Matt on his best bet. So Matt, let's jump into these games first, and if we have time, maybe we can revert back to what we saw yesterday. But for you, your best bet is Tennessee plus 4.5, and the market has agreed with you and the other 8 contestants that took Tennessee in this spot, as now we're looking at a 3 out there in the betting market. What ultimately led you to taking the points here with Tennessee against Houston? And do you think we've got a live dog situation with the Vols against Houston at Lucas Oil Stadium?
Yeah, I think the Vols should be live dogs, Tim. And this team's good enough to get Rick Barnes over the top, get the Vols to the Final Four. They were so close last year and lost that game to Zach Edey and Purdue in the Elite Eight. It's going to be the guards. Chaz Lanier, Zakai Ziegler. Those guys are going to have to step up and play extremely well today, which they can against Houston. And, The three-point shooting for Tennessee is the one thing that concerns you. It was not very good against Kentucky 2 days ago. It's going to have to be better today. The real difference between these two teams when you look at them, because they kind of look like mirror image type of teams, that like to play grinding games, low-scoring games. Houston's a better three-point shooting team. Houston shoots at better than 39%, and with Tennessee, you never know what you're going to get. I think Houston was able to win that game against Purdue mostly because of offensive rebounds and second-chance points. I think 20 second-chance points for the Cougars in that game, and that was the difference. Tim, I continue to be not that impressed with Houston. I've been saying this for a while, and I know JVT disagrees because some of the numbers look very impressive for the Houston Cougars and defensive efficiency and three-point shooting. That's a pretty mediocre Purdue team that Houston struggled to get by on Friday night. And this Tennessee team's better. It's definitely better, much better defensively, stronger on the boards. Houston shot 38% against a Purdue defense that's really soft in the middle. So I think you got to have some concerns about the Cougars. And this is a pretty easy decision for me here to go with Tennessee in the points as best bet. I made this number 2, Houston 2, and I was really, really surprised that just briefly DraftKings opened this at 5.5. I think within 1 minute it was down to 4.5, and you've seen the market come down steadily since. So Tennessee plus, easy call for me is the best bet, and I can see why the total is being, because the total is so low. That in a game like this, if you're having a lot of fouls and free throws, and you think it's going to be tight at the end. It shouldn't take a whole lot to get over a total of like 122, but I did not play the total.
Yeah, and over in our contest, as the number that we had to play was, I believe, 123.5, and one of the more 122.5. So once again, when we make these contest plays, the numbers are locked in. So you do have the ability, if we can, to get a little bit of a stale number. And I know a lot of us 8-pick people ultimately on Tennessee. I stayed off of it just because I totally anticipated that to be a very popular play, which it is. And I've got a Houston future, Matt, to win this region, and I'm going to sit back and hope that Houston can get there, just an outright victory. But we'll see how this one plays out. Styles makes fights, and this is kind of a fun one considering what we saw last night, at least from a total standpoint, from Alabama and Duke. The night affair, we've got Michigan State and Auburn. Auburn was trailing by 9 to Michigan, a team that I'm not saying I can't stand Dusty, man. I just couldn't stand that team because I thought they were lucky. I thought they were fortunate. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, are you kidding me? This team's going to make it to the Elite Eight. And then Auburn wakes up from their slumber. They go on a 20-2 run. Denver Jones is going crazy. Pettiford's hitting threes left and right. Broome was an absolute beast. And they move on. They get the cover there. And you've got a Michigan State team. And you know the Big Ten as anyone that I know, Matt. Look, this is not a vintage Michigan State team, but, man, does Tom Izzo love this squad. They're deep. They're not a great shooting team. You took the points here with the Spartans against Auburn.
Well, I did, and I don't love the Michigan State play. To me, it was kind of a contrarian play. I kind of expected in this contest, in this contest, we're going to have a lot of people like Auburn over Michigan State. And I said, you know what? Tom Izzo, as an underdog, is worth a look more often than not. We talked about that when Michigan State went to Champaign and played Illinois earlier this season. Spartans were dogs. They got down big early in the game, roared back to win it pretty easily. When you get Tom Izzo in the underdog role, you got to give him a look. And one thing you also have to keep in mind here, the Spartans team has been really slow starting. So they fall behind in first halves and roar back in the second half. And that's kind of what Auburn did in the previous game against Michigan. But this Michigan State team is so solid defensively and the rebounding the ball. They're not going to give you a lot of second chances. They're going to defend the three-point line. And I think Izzo is going to have his team well prepared for Auburn. At least Auburn's not going to go off offensively and drop a huge number on Michigan State. Tom Izzo is going to find a way to kind of, I think, try to dictate this game a little bit the way Duke did last night against Alabama. And we can talk a little bit about I thought that was a great coaching job last night by John Shire. And I'm hoping to see one from Tom Izzo today. Like you said, this Michigan State team shoots 31% from three. None of the numbers jump off the page and impress you that much, but the Spartans find a way to get it done. Tim, I thought I had Ole Miss plus 3.5 in the Sweet 16 game. And the Rebels, I thought, controlled that game for about 90% of the way. And then the Spartans just find a way in the last 2 minutes and get the win and advance. I think Auburn wins the game. I also think it's a game that goes down to the wire. But I'll take 5 with Tom Izzo because he is typically a really strong underdog coach, and I like that angle.
Once again, Matt Youmans joining us here. Matt, I'm going to throw some breaking news at you. Pretty interesting. You and I love the Mountain West. How about New Mexico hiring UC San Diego's Eric Olin as their new head coach? Man, I'd really like that hire for New Mexico.
Yeah, that was one thing Richard Pitino was great at when he was in Albuquerque, was finding talent, right? Just look at J.T. Toppin, Texas Tech, Big 12 Player of the Year. He was in Albuquerque. Donovan Dent just got $3 million to go to UCLA. He was in Albuquerque, and go on and on, all the talent there. Eric Owen's done a great job building that UC San Diego program. I think that's a pretty good hire for the Lobos as well.
Yeah, that's a fun one there. Hey, Matt, before I let you run, we've seen some hypothetical lines for Duke and their next opponent, whether it be Tennessee and Auburn. C-Rad let me know this. Tennessee would be 7.5, and Houston would be 5.5. Look, Duke looked amazing last night, and they are amazing. You and I really like this team. This was my champion coming into the tournament, but boy, it feels like we're going to spend all week talking about how untouchable this Duke team is. Depending on who comes out, and obviously we got to see how the game plays, could you be interested to maybe go against the Blue Devils at an inflated price in the Final Four a week from Saturday?
That's possible. We'll see how the games go today, but I think Tennessee would probably be a bit of a tougher matchup, but it's not going to be. It would not be a big difference. I think in my bracket I had Tennessee, Duke in the Final Four. Might end up with 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four. Tim, when was the last time? 2008?
The last and only time, yeah.
Yeah, so Duke's not untouchable. Duke can be pushed, and I would certainly expect that to happen soon. But, man, John Shire did such a great coaching job last night. How about, Tim, the way the Blue Devils chased all those Alabama shooters off the three-point line? They defended Alabama's shooters out to like 25 feet on the floor, made them take tough twos, made them drive into the lane, and then Duke walked the ball up the court more often than not to slow the pace of the game. I thought it was a great job by Shire. Very impressed by the way Duke played on both ends of the floor last night. I
totally agree. They chased the three-pointers. BYU went under. They shot 51 threes in the Sweet 16 yesterday, made just 8 in the Elite 8. Matt, always appreciate it, man. Best of luck with your bets today.
Okay, you bet. Thanks.
There he is, Matt Youmans, creator of the Circa College Hoops Challenge. We'll get you an updated standings. Jeff Goodman, by the way, going to give us the latest on the coaching searches, his thoughts on today's game that he will be attending in Atlanta with Auburn taking on Michigan State. Hey, folks, just a reminder, if you're planning your Vegas getaway, Derek Stevens, a man of the people, 15% off all of his properties. Circa, the D, Golden Gate. Use this promo code VSiN15, circalasvegas.com. Jeff Goodman, College Hoops Insider. He joins us next right here on the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
Keep it rolling here. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. Tim Murray live with you from the Circa Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. Quick audible. We actually got UFL on the screens here. Football, and in the back of our minds. Earlier in the show, Chris Felica is on giving us a Florida State under win total. So football's on the mind. We made a quick audible on the show. We've got breaking college basketball news as Eric Olin is headed to New Mexico, and Jeff Goodman is as good as it comes from a college basketball insider standpoint. So he's got work to do. Totally understand that. So we're going to pivot off Jeff, and we're going to bring in Chris Massaro, who joins us courtesy of our progressive guest line in studio here. Mr. Massaro, also part of the Circa College Hoops contest. Both you and I had the Duke Blue Devils yesterday, so that was a lovely victory there. Let's jump into today before we move back a little bit as I look at your contest plays coming into today. Chris is sitting at 23-22-1. Duke was your best bet yesterday. Almost got home on Florida. That would have been a brutal beat for me. But you do like Tennessee, plus the points today. Great number for our contest purposes, right? 4.5. Right now, Marcus sitting at 3. So we just talked to Matt a bit about it. Why ultimately did you take the points with the Vols here against Houston?
Oh, it's funny. I just heard the segment with Matt, and we were actually watching the end of the game on Friday night, and we're like, oh, I wonder what the number is going to be. How low is the total going to be?
Yep.
And a couple guys were looking at, the DraftKings pops immediately. And like he said, it was 5.5, and then Circa posted 4.5. And like everyone was like trying to run to the book, but so many people were cashing their tickets that it was tough to get to the book. And I didn't have any money in the app at the time. So by the time I got to the window, I got 3.5, which wasn't the best number, but I still like it. I mean, like Matt said, and I've been kind of saying this a lot, is like Houston I know the metrics are all there, and they look good, but they're just asking to get beat. There have been so many close games that they're just kind of hanging on. They hung on against Purdue. They hung on against Gonzaga. A couple of those Kansas games, they played Texas Tech without Chance, and they played Iowa State without Gilbert. So they've just kind of been like, they keep winning, but they're just not convincing wins. They're like the opposite of Duke. Duke's the most convincing win team going, and this Houston team they just kind of don't pass the smell test for me. I just think Tennessee's finally going to get over the hump. Rick Barnes is going to make it into the Final Four. But if Houston, I got this one covered pretty good.
Yeah.
I played all the number ones to make the Final Four.
What was that price?
DraftKings had it it was up a little bit higher. By the time I got it, I got like 12-1.
Okay.
But I also flipped one and I put Tennessee, and Tennessee made it 24-1.
Wow.
So as long as Auburn gets the win, which I thought was going to be the early game, and I'm not sure why it isn't, because those teams play late. For some reason, that's the late game. So I was hoping that was going to be the other one we could hedge, but
yeah.
So either way, I'm not upset if Houston does get the job done, but I have a feeling that Tennessee's going to keep this close. Like Matt said, we were making it like we thought it was going to be 1.5 or 2.
Yeah. And
when we got that big number, we were kind of shocked.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to see it as high as it was. And, full disclosure, from a game theory standpoint, I had Tennessee locked in on our contest plays, and I'm like, you know what? Tons of people are going to be on this, and I'm trying to catch up. So I took it off. Ultimately, for me, my final play was Auburn and Michigan State under. But I have Houston to win this region, so I think they win, but I'm not racing to lay points here. I think it's going to be an absolute battle. We played you some of the clips earlier in the show, the familiarity these two coaches have with one another. Obviously, two veteran coaches, been coaching for a million years, Barnes and Kelvin Sampson. So should be a fun one. What's interesting to note here as we sit here on this Sunday morning, the total now continues to rise. Chris, it's now up to 161.5. This thing opened 121.5. So that's a 5-point move to the over here on this one.
I think DraftKings even had it at 120.5 at the first click. Like they're these algorithms that are posting these odds right away.
Yeah,
like
120.5. You're right.
There's no human element into it. So FanDuel's been posting some crazy low totals on the Alabama games. And, maybe they were actually right yesterday when they did post the original number. I had the under 2 in that game yesterday, and it was just nice and easy. Didn't even have to worry about it for 1 second in the second half under. This is the type of game where I could see it. Can't you see this game being 62-60 or 63-61?
Well, I'll jump right in. How many of us, and I was in on the under in Purdue and Houston, and I'm sitting there after, Braden Smith, and, man, he is so good, man. And he kicks to the corner. They get the 3, and I'm thinking, are you serious? We're not going to get the under here because overtime's going to happen. And as we know, it's not called undertime, as that's what JVT likes to say. But they get the great, inbounds play. They're able to win the game, and we're able to cash the under. But, as crazy as this sounds, I would be nervous to have an under because, what if this is 58-58 and we go to overtime? What if it's 60-60 going into double overtime? I could totally see that, and you're going to be sweating this bad boy out.
Me too, but that's also why I like Tennessee, because I can't see this being a game where Houston runs away. I just don't see them running away. Tennessee's had a few clunker games where they had a couple games where they couldn't.
44 against Kentucky.
Yeah, it's had a couple of those, but most of the games are obviously wins. They're a great team. They got 30-7, but most of the games are just nip and tuck, and they're just one basket games. And I figure if you can get 3.5, or you're lucky to get 4.5, You kind of got to take the points in this game because I can see it being like a slog type of game.
Chris Massaro hanging with us here in studio. He is 1-1 in the Sweet 16, but the best bet home of Duke -7. I was on that as well, so a lot of us were happy to see that come home. Also, the unflappable Paul Stone finally got a loss on a best bet. Eventually, I guess it had to happen, but Chris's final play in the contest for the Sweet 16, or excuse me, for the Elite Eight, is Tennessee plus the 4.5. Chris right now 23-22 right now in the contest. You don't have a play in the contest, but let's jump to the night affair. We've got Michigan State and Auburn. I'm in on the under 149.5 in the contest. I played it down to 148.5. Right now 147. It's a little far down, but I still lean towards the under. The more and more I think about it, Chris, and I talked about it, I got a little creative. You're a big fan of creativity with these money line parlays.
Love 'em.
So give me South Carolina women's hoops. They got tested in the Sweet 16, so I think they beat Duke. Tyler Shoemaker liked the under in that game. So I put Auburn in a money line parlay. I think the athleticism for Auburn ultimately prevails here, but Youmans likes the Spartans plus the points, and I can't push back on that. I understand why you'd look at Michigan State here.
Well, I saw Jeff Benson yesterday morning. He's like, how's it going? I'm like, well, I saw that pretty big line of people cashing tickets the other night, so I'm going to keep rolling with this chalk. And yesterday I came down, played a pretty big parlay, money line Duke, money line Florida.
Never in doubt.
Money line Auburn, and I put in Tennessee plus the money line Tennessee. And I also bet Tennessee the night before at 3.5. So I have a lot riding on Tennessee, but I figured I can't see I can't really see Auburn losing this game. But I'm not an idiot, and I found a rogue 6 this morning on Michigan State.
Okay.
So I took Michigan State plus 6, but I also came down and thanks to Wes Reynolds, a lot of us in town have Minwoo Lee today at a nice 30-1 or higher price. So Circa, nice enough to put up the no on Minwoo Lee, which fluctuated overnight between 190, plus 190, and plus 210. So you can get very creative with that.
Yep.
You have a 30-1 ticket on Minwoo Lee. You can play the no. You can wrap it in with some Auburn money line, and maybe I have a lot on Tennessee. Maybe I'm going to play a little Houston money line. So you do a Houston money line, no Minwoo Lee with Auburn money line. And then you're gonna hit one of your big bets.
Yeah.
You're not gonna end up with nothing. And then, some people don't like to say that's a good idea. A lot of people don't like to hedge, or as Mike Palm likes to say, monetize the ticket. I like to be smart, and if I can guarantee myself a sizable profit, especially when I have a 30-1 ticket going on, I'm going to do that every time.
Chris Massaro hanging with us here in studio, part of our Circa College Hoops contest. You've seen him all over VSiN over the years here. Mike Palm, a big believer in. I used to do a segment when he would fill in monetizing with Mike. You got to make. At the end of the day, man, and I'm not here to lecture anyone. Whatever you want to do with your own money is what you want to do with it. But I'm not anti-hedging. At the end of the day, as bettors, we want to try to make money. So that's the ultimate goal. By the way, Mikey P chimes in on Twitter, and he says, if you like Auburn, take them first half. Michigan State hasn't come out strong in the first half since their conference tournament game against Oregon. So good advice there from Mikey P.
Yeah, Julian Edlow had the unbelievable stat going into the game on Friday night. They were only 2-14 first half ATS, so that make them 2-15 now. So you get a small money line first half on Auburn, that might be the play, but. You can play the first half money line, and then you figure Michigan State always makes that run, which they have done because they are so deep. They run 10 guys at you. They wear you down. They play that tough defensive style. They make a comeback, and they seem to do it every single game. So, there's always the in-play angle, too.
Yeah, no doubt.
You can do. So.
Before I let you run, Duke dominant yesterday. Odds-on favorite now to win the title. Duke or the field?
Oh, I'm on Duke the whole way. They're the most efficient team I've ever seen in college basketball. Every single shot is almost a wide-open shot. They had a couple contested at the rim yesterday. I give Alabama credit. They could have rolled over. They didn't. But I tell you, these three-pointers are wide open. They're getting to the rim. They're getting layups. They're getting dunks. They got the athleticism for the alley-oops I've never seen. It's like a pro team running against college teams. Alabama's a great team. They look like a Patriot League team yesterday.
It was remarkable that you saw from a defense. That's our guy, Chris Massaro, at Real Gauge on social media. Hey, just a reminder, he's part of the VSiN Circa College Hoops contest. You get all those picks and our betting splits, as well as all your analysis, like Wes Reynolds giving out Minwoo Lee there in the golf. $9.99. Check it out. VSiN.com/subscribe.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
Put the bow on the show. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. I'm Tim Murray, live here from Las Vegas, Nevada at the Circa Sportsbook as we get you ready. Another great day of hoops, hopefully in store for us. What a comeback yesterday by the Florida Gators. I know Chris Felica and myself, I'll be honest, none too pleased by how that one unfolded. And I was in the line. You know, it's funny. I was just talking to Chris Massaro about the Field of 68 fellas, and Jeff Goodman was scheduled to join us. He had to break some news, so you got your job to take care of Jeff. No worries. We always love Rob Doster. John Fanta, we were just talking about how much we love those guys and what they put out there from a product standpoint and the passion that they have covering the sport that they cover. And John Fanta, man, that dude just loves college hoops. And I equated it to Tim Kirkchin, who is, he's the best. I love Tim Kirkchin. Yes, he's a Maryland guy, but just the passion that Kirkchin has, if you ever talk to him, if you ever have an interview with him, the dude just loves baseball. It oozes out of his pores. And he told this story, which was so incredible, about when he found out that he was getting into the Hall of Fame, and he was online at Harris Teeter when he got the phone call telling him he was going to the Hall of Fame. And, you know, in typical Kirkchin fashion with his infamous voice, he's talking about how he's standing there crying, so happy as he's trying to self-check out at Harris Teeter. So maybe not on the same level, but it was a little bit similar when yesterday I was at the self-checkout, because I'll be honest, and maybe I'm to blame. Texas Tech fans, blame me, because I thought this thing was good to go. I had to make a run out to the grocery store, wanted to make sure we were home in time for the start of Alabama-Duke. So I'm sitting there on the self-checkout line. I was listening to the game driving in to my guy Ryan Radke, driving to the grocery store there. I hear the threes hit, and I'm like, that's not good. And then you hear the front end of the 1-and-1 hit miss, and you're like, that's also not good. And I'm sitting there, and I'm in online to check out, and I'm watching it just completely bottom out. And ultimately, I'm thinking, well, we're not going to get our future home, and we might not even get to the cover home. Now, fortunately, Texas Tech did get the cover, but maybe not as joyful as Tim Kirkchin's experience when he found out he was going into the Hall of Fame online and in the grocery store versus me sitting there and also having multiple people from behind ask, hey, who's winning? Oh, that's great for my bracket, Florida. Way to come back. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. But it was a good game, and Florida, Walter Clayton Jr., let me just tip of the cap to you, sir. That dude, man, he's got it, man. He's got the clutch gene, and he's just a badass competitor. And, you know, look, I'm not saying that the portal's perfect, and, you know, it's kind of the wild, wild west out there, but stories like Walter Clayton, a guy who went to Iona, played for Rick Pitino, and now he's the best player on Florida, dropping 30 in an Elite Eight game. This dude just has that it factor in him, and he got it done yesterday as Florida goes to the Final Four. And we saw the tweet. How about Todd Golden, 39, John Shire, 37, both in the Final Four? And then you might get the old guard, right? Well, you're definitely going to get someone from an older standpoint, Rick Barnes and Kelvin Sampson. So, yeah, it was a hell of a finish yesterday. But we got great games today, and let's continue to get you prepped for this one as, once again, Tennessee and Houston, the early game for this afternoon. And then the late night one is Michigan State and Auburn, a game that we've seen a little bit of line movement. Tom Izzo trying to get back to the Final Four for the first time since 2019. Nighttime altogether. Certainly loves this team, but as he knows, this challenge ahead is going to be tough against Auburn.
Broome is an incredible player, but the other two guys can make shots, and they can make shots from a lot of different places. And to get 62 other points, these guys are going to be challenged a little bit. We're going to have to do some different things with Broome because he scores it in so many different ways, and we got a couple different things we'd like to do with him. But the other ones are just defend from long range, short range. They can put it on the floor. They can shoot it from the logo. We're just going to have to try to make sure we contain them. You know, we're not going to stop them, but we're going to contain them. And if we can do that, we can get some rebounds. We can run. And I think that is a big part of our game, too.
Seen some money come in on the under, total sitting at 147. Me and 6 others in the Circa contest are in on the under. Aaron Moore, David Deneen, Ron Boyles, Wes Reynolds, and Bobby Brubeck. Both Boyles and Brubeck have it as their best bet under 149.5. Number has moved in our direction. Thankfully, it is the number one consensus play in the Circa contest with no contention on the other side. There were a bunch of folks on Tennessee. There are a bunch of folks on Tennessee. We'll get to that here in just a moment, but there is a little bit of pushback. 6 on the under, none on the over for Michigan State and Auburn. Bruce Pearl, he knows a thing or two about Tom Izzo and this Michigan State squad. His thoughts on Auburn's competition later today.
Tom Izzo's 10-0 in the NCAA tournament against the SEC. I bet you didn't know that. Pretty good. There's a reason, one of the reasons why I look at Michigan State over the years, and don't forget I was an assistant at Iowa, and so I've been familiar with Tom, and we were both assistants sitting in St. Cecilia's gym when he was working for Judd Heathcote and I was working for Dr. Tom Davis. They've always been as athletic as anybody in the backcourt. Michigan State has elite athletes in the backcourt. So therefore, like my athletes, they guard, they can score in multiple ways. And then his front lines are always big, strong, physical, play really hard. Sometimes better than others, but that's been the makeup. So Michigan State's always one of the most athletic teams in the SEC, in the Big Ten. Now, I think we won 6 or 7 in a row against the Big Ten. I bet you didn't know that.
I love Bruce Pearl. He's a unique character. Did you see him after the game, after they beat Michigan, chanting SEC? I know there's a war between SEC and the Big Ten. Obviously, who's the superior conference this year? Let's be honest, it's the SEC. I know it's been a tough run for the SEC is overrated crowd this NCAA tournament, especially if 3 of the 4 teams playing in the Final Four are from the SEC, which is certainly possible. There's a chance there's only one. But I do think Auburn takes care of business today. I'm not racing to lay the points. By the way, in our contest, here are the plays. Paul Stone and Matt Youmans on Michigan State plus the 5. Paul in first. Youmans right now in, I believe, 4th. And then JVT, Ken Thompson, and Jim Root all laid the chalk with Auburn. I would lean more with the trio in Von Tobel, Thompson, and Root than with taking the points. But I mentioned it earlier. I got a little creative, had a little fun. Let's have a little Sunday fun day. Give me South Carolina women's hoops along with Auburn on the money line. As we know, favorites, it's just chalk. Just chalk, chalk, chalk. Rock chalk, even though the Jayhawks are eliminated. As for the earlier game at Lucas Oil Stadium, Tennessee and Houston, Jemai Mashak of the Tennessee Volunteers, his thoughts on their opposition this afternoon in Indianapolis.
What makes them really successful is they have the personnel. They have really good guys that come in, do their jobs, focus on doing their jobs. They have length. They're all around the court. You can try and scheme as much as you want, but if you don't have the personnel and the guys to do it, it doesn't work out. So I think that's what jumps out to me when I'm watching Houston. I'm going to never say no matter what. It doesn't matter what team I'm playing against. Nobody's tougher than me. Nobody's tougher than this team. But we're still going to respect them as a tough team. But we're going to play harder. We're going to play tougher. But we got to respect them as such and go out and play hard.
Right now at VSiN.com, our betting splits over from DraftKings. 53% of the bets, 58% of the handle on Houston. 83% of the bets on the over, and we've seen a lot of over money hit the market here. By the way, Circa is the flip. They have Tennessee, 61% of their bets, 68% of the money. As for our contest, 8 handicappers in on the Volunteers. Now, worth noting the number, right? 4.5 is the number we got in the contest, down to 3. Paul Stone, JVT, Matt Youmans, Aaron Moore, Chris Massaro, Ken Thompson, Wes Reynolds, Jim Root, all took the candy with Tennessee. Only Will the Thrill Hill is in on the Houston Cougars. So That is the weight breakdown there. Aaron Moore, David Deneen, and Hoops Peterson all on the over, but that was 122.5. Market has moved this bad boy out to 126.5. I am going to stay off of this game. However, worth noting, I do have and logged it into the picks page, Houston to win this region at plus 125. I think Houston gets it done, and hopefully they do for the sake of my future, but should be a fun one to kick it off. Live Bet Saturday, Live Bet Sunday, we'll have you covered later on in the show. Matt Brown with Ready, Set, Bet. He's going to step in here. He'll keep you updated on everything you need to know for the 2 contests here this afternoon. That's going to do it for our program. Thanks to everyone who joined the show. My name is Tim Murray. I'll be back with you tomorrow night on VSiN Primetime at 7 p.m. Ready, Set, Bet with Matt Brown coming up next right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.